Coming up on show 770, the VW ID.4 appears to be in production already. Big news. Stick around and I'll tell you more. Plus the VW Touareg GTE, update on Tesla Battery Day, NIO's sales surge, Audi putting charge hubs into shipping containers, and Sweden's EV market share. Well, good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Wednesday, 6th of May. My name is Martyn Lee. I go through every EV story so you don't have to, and I'm still playing catch up, but I appreciate your patience as we get back to the good old routine. So headline story today, the VW ID.4 appears to be in production already, according to a YouTube video that was shot, of course, by special invitation. Somebody didn't break into the factory. Well, the ID.4 is what used to be called the ID Cross, with all the Zs, and this is an SUV crossover style car. Some people think it's going to be a smaller car than perhaps would need to be competing with Tesla Model Y, the Polestar 3 when that comes out, but something like the Volvo XC40 Recharge, that's an all-electric car. But no, I firmly believe the VW ID.4 sitting on the same platform as the ID.3 is going to be smack bang, well and truly Model Y territory. Well, the April unveil was cancelled, as you can imagine, for various reasons, but VW did do a virtual thing. They said about 300 plus miles for the car, which is up to 500 kilometres. Again, that's real ballpark for a typical car, which is going to be about $40,000, well, starting at $40,000 now. I remember a couple of years ago when we started talking about the ID.3, we'd give the range figure and then we'd give the price. And of course, those two don't always match up because the range can sometimes represent the top of the range model and the price can often represent the starting from price. So those might be very different. Of course, the ID.4 is going to be the first ID vehicle for the USA. It will be made in the US, China and Europe. And around 100,000 ID models are going to be made in 2020, even despite the current production shutdown, which is all getting back up and running now, by the way, with different safe working procedures. So I wonder how many of those 100,000 are going to be ID.3 and how many will be ID.4. But the big news is that the German car rental firm, which is called Next Move, they've also got themselves a YouTube channel. It's really popular as well. Gets really tons of views because they do like EV news shows. If you speak German, I recommend it. I just read the subtitles that are auto-generated and it kind of does the job. And they say this, and I quote, "I saw the ID.4 on the production line. With regard to the space available, it is convincing. Space-wise, it will be in the same category as the Tesla Model Y," end quote. So he was invited along to go look at the ID.3 in the Zwickau factory, but at the same time, he did manage to see whether it was a happy accident, whether it was staged by PR. You know, these things often are very tightly controlled. He did see the Model Y in production. That could mean pre-production. That could mean they're testing equipment. It could mean, though, that now they've got the ID.3 lines up and running, and they're, yes, we talk about it, they're parking up the vehicles while they sort the software. The ID.4 could well be coming before the end of the year in limited numbers. Now, you can't order your ID.4 yet. They do have an ID.4 page on the VW website, but it's really just some funky pictures, still in camouflage at the moment, and some achingly cool, hip trendsters standing around by the car, and not much else apart from that, with some funky neon lighting. However, you can sign up for the email that'll tell you more when the information is available. So they are starting to get that machine up and running. We look forward to more details about the ID.4, because when you think about the time that it's going to take to make Gigafactory Berlin, you know, if next summer, if June, July is the time that it opens, I think that'll be not a miracle, but it will be a huge effort. Tesla just lost their VP over here in Europe. He was in his post about a year, I think. I happened to read that just in kind of in the LinkedIn updates that somebody posted. So by the look of it, it's a stressful job. The people in the position of leading Tesla over here in Europe never stay in the job too long, so I'm sure that you get a direct line to Elon when you're in charge of building a gigafactory, and that must be pretty stressful. So we'll see if that slows things down. I'm sure it's a big machine. I'm sure they've got it all under control, but Interesting how long it'll take to build Giga Berlin. If they manage to start making cars by next summer, it will be a huge effort. And in terms of right-hand drive, well, there'll be no right-hand drive Model Ys made out of Fremont. That is my prediction. There'll be no right-hand drive Model Ys made out of China for now, because the China Model Y building is still being built. So the first right-hand drive Model Ys... So again, I know I have vested interests because we drive right-hand drive, but I'm talking to you Aussie listeners and a few places around the world as well, that actually those could be made in Giga Berlin. If that's going to be next summer, maybe the ID.4 could well be in the hands of European buyers before the Model Y. And that would be kind of interesting. The ID.3 looks good, but I'm more interested in the ID.4 because... although personally, I'm not craving a crossover SUV style, we know they sell by the bucket load. Moving up, though, to a big SUV, the VW Touareg is going electrified. The GTE is spied with no camouflage on. Photos have shown a completely undisguised prototype of the Touareg GTE. As the name implies, that is the electrified version of the large SUV. According to Motor One, the new Touareg was released back in April 2018, and at the time we were told it was going to have a plug-in system. It's made for the Chinese market at the moment with a plug-in system of a 2-litre petrol engine and an 18 kilowatt-hour battery pack with a combined output of 362 horsepower. And the GTE technology that is around in the Golf, in the Passat, is good stuff, actually. They've got the software working really nicely. Admittedly, I would always be let down when the combustion engine would inevitably kick in, but good battery size on that. And for many people, a plug-in hybrid, a GTE, is maybe the right car for them for the next couple of years. Tesla's Battery Day is in the news next, and the deal I mentioned yesterday with the Korean firm HANWHA is putting another piece in the puzzle. Battery Day is going to be held at the end of May, the latest I heard. If you know differently, if you're a mega Tesla follower of every word on Twitter from the superfans, I try and keep up with stuff, but you know, it's busy. And so, last I heard, end of May for Battery Day. That will be the occasion when Tesla tell us more about not only the million-mile battery that Jeff Dahn and the researchers have been working on, but also how they're going to make it themselves. Yes, you already know about the Maxwell acquisition. That's all to do with dry anode or dry cathode technology. I need to up my battery knowledge skills on what Maxwell does. High Bar Systems, which is the company that are experts in making and production, and Tesla have now acquired a new company, South Korean website saying that done a deal with HANWHA, and when I went to click on the link, it's now been deleted. So rather than just issue a denial, maybe, it always looks sus when something gets deleted from the internet. Why delete articles from the internet? Always raises suspicion with me, like maybe the reports were true and someone's had a quiet word with someone and it's all been covered up, or maybe the story wasn't true in the first place and they were just embarrassed, so rather than put a correction out, they just deleted the thing. Anyway, if the deal is true with the South Korean company HANWHA, they make formation equipment involved in cell production, to do with testing the constant current from the cells, and it could be a way of testing the quality of cells, maybe for ones that go into the cars or the storage. Prototype lines would be in Fremont, I'm guessing, because you know, in Nevada at the Gigafactory, that's where Panasonic is. So I guess you can hide it from Panasonic, but I imagine any prototype lines will be running in somewhere like Fremont where there's no prying eyes from their friends at Panasonic, who are currently making the cells with Tesla. But we know Tesla want to be making the cells themselves, and will they get into mining as well? That's the other question we'll find out the answer to on Battery Day. NIO is the EV maker in China that has been getting their fair share of publicity, and their April delivery results were out and they said they did pretty well. About 3,155 vehicles delivered in April. That's year-over-year growth. The 5-seater SUV, the ES6, did about 3,000, and the bigger company, this car from the company, the 7-seater premium SUV, the ES8, did about 250 as well. Looking forward to seeing more from NIO. Like all small EV makers, they have their highs, they have their lows. It's not an easy job to do, but we wish anyone who is making EVs all the best luck in the world. Right, a new Tesla update has come over the air. We are looking at 2020.16, I think we're looking at here. It has a new over-the-air update from the software team at Tesla, who are still working remotely by the look of it. Obviously, with stay-at-home conditions, maybe they've still been working and collaborating. And so they've managed to push out an over-the-air update, at least, with the TOYBOX. The Tesla TOYBOX has been redesigned to make it easier to view and play. Scroll through the toys and adjust the controls. As before, to access the TOYBOX, tap the TOYBOX icon from your launcher. There's also a new nearby charging stations visual representation. The charging list has been improved, and you can filter charging stations based on the power they provide. A clever little 1, 2 or 3 lightning bolt system to know how fast chargers are. And a dashcam improvement as well. Dashcam is now easier to set up after plugging in a USB drive. You can simply format the USB device inside the car and create folders for dashcam. Formatting the USB will delete everything on it, of course, so maybe you're using a USB, maybe you're using an SSE drive for that, but I was always a bit perplexed when a company like Tesla, that prides themselves on making things so simple, released the first version of things like Dashcam and Sentry, and it was always a case of, well, you've got to use a certain type of USB, and it's got to be FAT32 formatted, and I just glazed over. I was like, this is just, I'm a bit of a geek and a nerd, but hang on a minute, is the average person really going to do this? But, on the forums and stuff, the superfans didn't seem to mind. It looks like, though, they are making this easier for those who are less tech-minded to do it all from within the car, rather than having to go to their computer and do a certain type of formatting and then put it back in the car, and making it much more user-friendly. And, of course, that is a wonderful thing. Well, Audi released a little clip I saw this on Twitter, a little animated GIF of a mobile charging hub that they have built into shipping containers. Now, we first saw these shipping containers at the World Economic Forum in Davos. They had e-trons, which were the shuttle vehicles, and they were charging on these big charging hubs that they had built inside entire shipping containers. Have you seen the Tesla mobile supercharger that rocks on up sometimes at busy holidays in the US on the back of a truck, and it's just a big set of batteries? It's a bit like that, but a very finished version of that. It's got fold-up wings that are the sides, and they kind of electronically come up, and it's all very polished and finished. It looks great. The charging containers, the shipping containers that are charging hubs, have 4 used Audi e-tron battery systems, delivering overall charging capacity of about 700 kilowatts. They have 3 charging terminals each. They'll charge 150 watts at a time, storing about a megawatt hour of energy. And Audi working with ABB, the Swiss energy company ABB, for this. Maybe they want to pick up these shipping containers and put them into certain locations to help the local grid at times of particular demand. That would be interesting. Moving on, and Sweden's EV market share is at 23% last month in April. Sweden maintained their growing plug-in EV share in April, 23%, up more than double year on year from 10% a year ago. The overall market was down, that's no surprise. The Nordic countries didn't have total lockdown, certainly Sweden didn't, that to the extent that other countries have had. France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and our auto industry sales, registrations, deliveries completely taken a fall, but that's not really news. That was always going to happen if people respected the measures. Well, the industry association in Sweden highlighted the relative strength of plug-ins and how resilient they are, according to Dr. Max Holland for Clean Technica. In Sweden, plug-in hybrids are more popular than pure electrics at a ratio of about 3-1. The favourite models, the Model 3 is obviously very important, but the plug-ins like the Volvo S60 and V60 plug-in hybrids taking the top spot there. So, if you are a Nissan Leaf E Plus owner, how does your car charge? A video that I recommend watching online if you're interested in the Leaf is been put out by Tom Mologney, the long-time EV expert. Tom, he writes for Inside EVs. I'm on a podcast with him every Friday from Inside EVs as well. And I was talking to him, he's put a video up online, and he was given a Leaf E Plus, or as it's called in the US, the Leaf Plus SL. I hate it when car companies call the same car different things in different territories just because the marketing department get involved. I wish they'd just call it. We live in a global world, right? Why are cars called different things in different countries? Anyway, different specs, different trim levels. I sort of understand it. It's a pain. He got one and decided to do a top to empty range test, so fill it up to 100 and go till it stops. Well, he went till it went down to 1%, and then he didn't want to drive around the car park all day, so he stopped at 1% rather than pushing it to the charger when it ran out. But I like it when people do that rather than just do it for, I see reviewers do 50% and then extrapolate the other, and then the range is this if you count what's left on the GOM. Not really the same. However, rated range of 215 miles, so he did a 70 mile an hour constant range test on the Leaf, and he got about 180, I think it was, on that. But more interesting, when he was charging it, he could not get the car to go to 100% on a DC fast charger. So he unplugged, went to an AC post, plugged it in, charged it it was at 98%, charged it for 50 minutes, and it still said 98%. What is going on with the BMS on the Leaf E Plus, or in other words, the 62 kilowatt hour Leaf, whatever it's called where you are? Have you got this car, and what does it do for you? Because that seems mad, to charge it for 50 minutes at 98%, and then when you unplug it, it still says 98%. So I wonder where the buffer is on that, whether it's a big buffer at the bottom of the Leaf battery, and because it's got about 56 or 58 usable from the 62. And so what's it doing? If you drive this car, I'd love to know, because it made me curious. When I don't know the answer to something like that, it frustrates me, because I can't work out why it would take so long at the top. I know it was trickling in, it was charging slowly, but it was still taking a reasonable charge. I wonder what the BMS is doing. I'd love to hear from you, Leaf owners. And finally, the next gen Volvo cars, which are going to be electric, will also be powered by LiDAR for their driver assist systems, new safety and tech standards, and partnering with an industry-leading LiDAR technology firm. They're going to be building LiDAR into all Volvos, not just the electric ones, to help with driver assist and self-driving technology. The next generation architecture, if you like, on which they're going to be built will include, of course, all of their electric cars as well, and they'll have over-the-air software updates. That's a really good thing, and the integration of LiDAR means that, particularly on highways, that autopilot technology can take over. They don't just want to do one technology, though. Of course, Tesla famously went the other way in not using LiDAR, but Volvo think that it's a combination of LiDAR along with Tesla's way of doing it, which is cameras everywhere and radars and backup systems, means it's the best way to go, rather than ruling out any one particular technology, combining them all so that steering, braking, battery power can all be managed by the car very safely. All right, question of the week this week takes a break. It's back on Sunday, 10th of May, but you can email me about anything, anytime. My email address is hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment down there in the notes on the comments on the YouTube show. Well, thank you so much to 233 patrons of the podcast. Your continued support is very much appreciated and means this show gets to happen. My premium partners are Phil Roberts of Electric Future, also Brad Crosby. Thank you, Brads. Hello to Avid Technology here in the UK. Hello to Brightsmith Group for clean tech talent. Also Porsche of the Village, Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East. If you want to check out what all the fuss is about, Patreon is patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Individuals and companies choose to support the creation of this podcast to help it happen and to cover the costs and also help us grow as well. Got some really big plans for 2020, which wouldn't be possible without Patreon supports. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. Oh, do remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.